Okay guys, so let's continue our chapter 8. In the part 1 we discussed web application attacks. We'll discuss the cross-site scripting, SQL injection attack. Then we also discussed directory traversal poisoning, including R poisoning and DNS poisoning. Today in this part we will discuss wireless network attacks and specifically Bluetooth attacks, and we will discuss couple of wireless local area network attacks. So let's start with the first agenda item, Bluetooth. Bluetooth is basically a wireless communication technology. Which uses short range RF signals for data communication. It offers poor security as compared to any other wireless technology because of weak security, or you can say encryption algorithms. Because if we increase the complexity of algorithms, automatically what's going to happen, you will suffer latency and delay in Bluetooth, which is not desirable. The devices, or you can say network between devices using Bluetooth is called PAN, Personal Area Network. And there are mainly two types of topologies in Bluetooth. One of the network topologies is called Piconet, while second is called Scatternet. So these are the two main technologies, or the two main network topologies that we use in Bluetooth. Let's talk about Piconet first. Piconet is, for example, let's say two Bluetooth devices. Let's say this is the one Bluetooth device and that's second Bluetooth device. When these two devices come within the range of each other, then one of the device become master and second device will become slave. Master controls the communication while slave I take instruction. For example, your cell phone. So your cell phone is basically a master, and when you guys actually enter in your car, connect your cell phone with your car speakers or car audio system, Bluetooth based audio system, then what happens? Your speakers are basically slave because they take instruction from your cell phone. So Piconet is basically when two Bluetooth enabled devices come within the range of each other, then one device becomes master, who controls communication, and second becomes slave, takes the order. So slave takes the order exactly in your car audio system. Your cell phone is the master, while the car audio system or your speakers are basically the slave. Now slave can be further classified into two types. There are two types of slaves. Slave can be active slave, or it could be a parked slave. Active slave is basically who is actively communicating data, like sending or receiving data plus giving output. Okay, while parked is something that is in idle mode. It might be getting data but not giving any kind of output. The second type of the Bluetooth topology is Scatternet. Scatternet is basically like, for example, you might have two or three Bluetooth speakers which might be connected with one cell phone. So one cell phone might have many slaves, and one slave can be a master of another slave, for example, for another network. So Scatternet is, for example, you have two or more Piconets. So Scatternet is, let's say, the Bluetooth. It is the Bluetooth network consisting of two or more Piconets. So for example, this is one Piconet where we have, this is the master who is controlling these particular slave, for example. So circle is for slave. And then we might have another, for example, Piconet in the vicinity, and this particular slave is also serving to this master as well. We usually use, or this could be a master for other Piconet as well. That is a kind of a Scatternet. We use Scatternet model in robots, in artificial intelligence and stuff like that, where multiple devices are reporting to multiple, servers or multiple clouds maybe. So device which is basically the master of one particular Piconet, it could act as a slave, for example, for another network. So there could be another master and it's basically slave for this particular master. And it might be serving, working as a master for this particular Piconet. Now, attacks in the Bluetooth, there are mainly two types of attack in Bluetooth. One is called blue jacking. Second is blue snarfing. Blue jacking is a harmless attack. It is just the sending unsolicited messages, Bluetooth messages to nearby devices, nearby Bluetooth enabled devices. In fact, this is Bluetooth enabled devices. While the again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not basically harmful. People cannot steal your information by doing blue jacking, but annoying. While blue snarfing is something which is really dangerous, because in blue snarfing, attackers they can steal your data by just establishing a connection. So it is basically attackers can access the internal data. For example, it could be your emails, contact lists, messages, etc. Pictures, maybe, by just establishing a Bluetooth connection. So for example, if you are one of those people who don't turn off your Bluetooth, so you are basically vulnerable to blue snarfing, because if you don't turn off your Bluetooth, attackers using blue snarfing tool, what they can do is they can actually they can scan for nearby devices whose Bluetooth is on, then they can establish a connection with your cell phone, and they can copy all these things, and without owner's knowledge. So owner cannot actually owner cannot see whether somebody has connected, establish a connection with the device or not. So they can establish a connection in a concealed way, and which is not visible. It's kind of a stealth connection, something like that, and they can copy data from your computer or your device. In our lab, I will show you guys. If you guys just remind me, I'll show you guys the blue snarfing. Next is the wireless network attacks. So wireless network attacks are basically, first of all, it's important to understand WLAN, wireless local area network. It has replaced all the wired networks. Specifically, I'm talking about the wired local area network. So the local area network where we used to use the Ethernet cable to connect over computers and all that stuff. Wi-Fi or wireless local area network, it is also known as Wi-Fi, wireless fidelity, and the protocol is IEEE 802.11. So that's the protocol for Wi-Fi. It has replaced the traditional you can say local area network, Ethernet based local area network. When Wi-Fi was or WLAN, wireless local area network, when it was introduced, what was the problem? The biggest challenge was people that didn't adapt it, because people what was basically the scenario back in 1997? Let's say this is the internet modem, and this modem is widely connected with ISP, and ISP will get you connected with internet. So this is your modem, which is located inside the home. If you want to connect your computer, you need to use this wire. Let's say this is a computer, it might be a laptop, another computer. It was connected with the modem with a wire, Ethernet cable. So for example, if you want to visit your bank account using your computer, so you just send the HTTP packets. This packet again travels within this wire, get to the modem, through the modem to ISP, internet, and then the bank. So Wi-Fi idea was like this Ethernet, the modem will actually become wireless. Like you don't have to connect a wire with the modem if within the local area network. Let's say this is your computer or the laptop, for example. So all you have to do is you just have to have a Wi-Fi interface card, network interface card, and you can wirelessly send the data to this modem, and this modem and again will be connected with ISP and some other stuff. But this channel is now free. Like you can actually use your cell phone while laying on the bed, laying on the couch or stuff like that, which is more convenient. Now, the problem was that, for example, if you are connected with your access point, with your modem wirelessly, there could be some hacker. They can also sniff your data. So people, they didn't adapt Wi-Fi technology that way, in fact, at that time. So IEEE, they actually introduced a security protocol called WEP. It is Wi-Fi, it's not Wi-Fi, sorry. It's the wired equivalent privacy. It's wired equivalent privacy is basically the algorithm. And by using this algorithm, what happens? Whenever you transmit any data from your computer to this access point, it goes in an encrypted form. So web, it received good attention, and people, they started using Wi-Fi, they started adapting this technology. But the problem with web was it was reported to be vulnerable in 2000, somewhere in 2003. So it was introduced in 1997. It has this decent life until unless 2003. Still, some of the Wi-Fi routers, they still use WEP. Then another protocol was introduced, WEP. It stands for Wi-Fi Protected Access. But this protocol was even worse. WPA was even worse. In WPA, it provides encryption plus the password, or you can say pin code. Like for example, the concept of protected access point. Let's say if you want to connect with your access point, you need to know a password. This idea was not available with the web. So WPA was extremely worse, and it offers extremely worse encryption. So that's why the life was less than 6 months. It has been quickly replaced with WPA2, which uses mainly AES plus, again, the password scheme was also there. So it uses AES for encryption, which is proven a secure algorithm. So we use that particular one to avoid the sniffing and all that stuff. So currently we use Wi-Fi, and most of the Wi-Fi routers, they actually use that what we have at our home is they actually use WPA2. We will use a tool called Tumbler just to collect the information about the nearby Wi-Fi, what we call the algorithms. We will capture some packets, and I'll show you guys how we can crack the passwords out of those packets. We will work on it in our lab. We will use a tool called AirCrack, which is the most widely used tool to crack the Wi-Fi passwords. Okay. So now there are a few problems, few issues with Wi-Fi. In fact, one of the problem with Wi-Fi is let's say this is your wired network. Let's say you have a wired local area network. With a wired local area network, we have a hard edge, hard boundary. Hard boundary means, let's say this is your access point or modem. If you want to connect with it, you need a wire. So it has a hard edge. Nobody can actually exhaust your network bandwidth. But in the case of Wi-Fi, although it's very convenient, but the problem is signal is basically like, it transmits the signal in all directions. So we don't have any kind of hard edge. Anybody can actually get enter in our range. They can get connected with that. And there is a possibility that they can crack the password. We will talk about it. So Wi-Fi actually offers blurred edge boundary. So we have a blurred edge boundary. Other than that, there are many other security attacks which target the Wi-Fi networks. Number one is the rogue access point. Second is the evil twin. Third problem is data can be intercepted. We already talked about it, how we can take care of this. Then replay attacks. Fifth, DOS attack, like jamming and all that stuff. We'll talk about all of them one by one. Let's talk about the rogue access point. What is basically a rogue access point? So rogue access point, let's say, for example, this is your, let's say this is GGC building. And for example, in this specific area, for example, if I just bring my own access point, I just connect it with the Ethernet cable, what will happen? It will start broadcasting the Wi-Fi signals. Okay, so there is no security configuration, no password, nothing like that. Anybody can actually get connected with that. So basically we are inviting the bad people to join our local area network, which is of course a risk. So rogue access point is basically unauthorized access point. Unauthorized access point installed within local area network and which allows attackers to bypass security configurations. Because it's not a legitimate device, I have unauthorizedly connect that device with the Ethernet cable and it has started broadcasting the signal. Unless you use total access control system, where we do the device authentication as well whenever you connect the device. If you use radius or if you use SAML or some other access methods, then of course this kind of problem will happen. Evil twin is another problem. Evil twin is basically where, let's say, for example, this is over GGC's, let's say the range of GGC wireless. Okay, so attacker will keep an eye. The attacker will do a survey where the range of GGC wireless ends. Attacker will actually install his fake access point. So attacker will actually install his access point and use or named it GGC wireless. Okay, so for example, if you step out of this room and if you enter in this particular range, so GGC wireless will be the SSID of this unauthorizedly, or you can say the access point which is installed by attacker. So when, for example, if you step out from your network and step into attacker's range where the attacker has installed his access point, and if you now scan, of course you will be disconnected with GGC wireless. If you scan it, for example, if you scan it and what's going to happen? If you scan it, you will see the GGC wireless. Of course, the fake GGC wireless. So if you try to connect it, they will not ask your username and password, or they might ask your username and password. Okay. Once you enter your username and password, they will record it and give you access. Now they got your username and password plus whatever the traffic you will transmit, they can intercept that. This is called evil twin. Access point installed by attacker outside the local area network. Okay, so attacker install access point or evil twin. Why we call it evil twin? Because it's a twin, it's an evil SSID, of course, evil twin of the original one. So install evil twin where the range of legitimate access point ends. So where the range ends, they install their own access point. Next is the intercepting wireless data. Wireless data can be intercepted, for example, even though if you use the WPA, if you still use HTTP, attackers, they can intercept whatever you are transmitting. They can sniff your packets and all that stuff. Many tools can be used. One of the tools which we have used was Wireshark, but attackers mostly they use dsniff. In our online session, please remind me, I'll show you how dsniff actually works. Wireless replay attack, let me tell you the definition, then I'll explain you what is replay attack. In wireless replay attack, attackers capture the packets of a legitimate or authenticated session and replay them with the original node, you can say access control server in a later session. This is called wireless replay attack. Let me explain you what is replay attack. Let's say, for example, this is basically access control server who knows this is access control server, for example, which controls the access to this particular asset. So that, let's say this is our asset. So we are trying to protect this particular asset. In access control system, we have username and the password. Okay. So if anybody wants to, let's say this is our legitimate user, for example, this is our legitimate user. Whenever this user wants to access, this user need to send username and the password, of course, in encrypted form. Once they set username and password, they can actually access that. Let's say we have an attacker here. Let's say we have attacker. Let's say this is attacker. Attacker actually sniffed the username and password, encrypted username and the password. Okay. Now let's say after some time, this particular user is gone. Now attacker comes in. Let's say this is attacker. Attacker joins the network. Attacker send this encrypted username and the password and send it to access control system where we have username, encrypted username and password. And then this is the resource. But what will happen? Since these username and password were captured from a legitimate session, so attacker can actually access the resource. Now the problem is, of course, we can avoid that by using random nonce and all that stuff that we discussed, the key wrapping things and all that stuff. If you these are the applications how to avoid the wireless replay attack. But again, if we don't use random nonce and all that stuff, of course, this is the problem which can happen. Attackers can actually access the resources even though they don't know the password. Then we have DOS attack, RF jammings. RF jamming is basically where attacker can transmit signals at 2.4 gigahertz, 2.4 and you can say 5 gigahertz. So because as you know, at this particular range over Wi-Fi routers or access point, they actually operate. So if you transmit too many signal at this particular frequency, nobody can actually can get the signals. Then there are two more stupid attacks which are just to exhaust the bandwidth. War driving is basically attackers, what they do is they actually searching for free, or you can say open access points by driving down streets. So they actually use software like this Tumbler is one of the software. There is acrylic Wi-Fi. There are many software. We will use this Tumbler, and they actually look for the open access points. After finding the open access point, then what they do is they actually document or publish the details of while driving on blogging sites. So what does it mean? It means they let the people know, hey, this particular Wi-Fi is free. If you live in this subdivision, don't purchase access point. Stuff like that, just to exhaust the bandwidth. Solutions. One of the best solution is disable SSID. So SSID is service set identifier. It is service set identifier. So for example, let's say if all the legitimate people have been connected, so it becomes unnecessary to submit your SSID. You can always you can disable your SSID if you go to settings or your account provided by the ISP. Then you can always disable your SSID once all the legitimate devices are connected. It avoids the piggybackers to enter to your network. Other than that, you can also use WPA2 along with that. So WPA2, there's most of the the access points, they do offer WEP or WPA2. It's your prerogative which particular algorithm you want to use. If you use WPA2, you are getting better encryption, plus you are also getting a protected internet access as well. So this is all about our chapter 8. In our lab, we will practice SQL injection attack. We will practice the air cracking, and we will also practice some other stuff like vulnerability assessment and all that. So if you guys have any questions, do let me know. Thank you.